I would like to welcome everyone to the Henry County Zoning Board meeting of Thursday, March 21st, 2013. We have a few housekeeping items we need to take care of before we start our meeting. This meeting is being televised on the Henry County TV channel 14 and will be rebroadcast each Thursday at 7:30 p.m. A video of the meeting is also available on demand at the county website. Now would be a good time to turn off your cell phones. I'll give you a chance to do that. Also, for those wishing to speak in favor or opposition, we'll need to fill out a public hearing speaker card. We will give you 10 minutes to speak. That's total amount of time for those in favor of a case and 10 minutes for those that are in opposition of a case. For example, if 10 people wish to speak, they all share the 10-minute slot and so forth. I will ask you to please address the board when you come up to the podium and not the audience when you speak. So if you turn your back to us, we're going to assume that you are finished speaking and we're going to ask you to be seated. So we just want to let you know that. At this time, the invocation and pledge will be given by Mr. Head of District 1. Stand.
Let us bow. Heavenly Father, we would like to just thank you tonight and ask that you would guide our minds and our hearts. Lord, that we would make the right decision concerning this business. We would ask that you would have your blessing upon this. In our Son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Let us pledge allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting will now be called to order. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Second?
Second.
All those in favor indicate by raising your hand. None opposed. All right, motion carried. Okay, I need a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor indicate by raising your hand. Oh, abstain, okay. And those opposed? Am I going too fast?
Madam Chair, could I ask that when the vote is taken, that you call out if the vote was unanimous and who abstained, because we have someone that does the minutes and they're not able to see who's making the motions with the hands being raised. I'm sorry.
Okay, so you want me to say it was unanimous?
That's correct. And if a motion is made, I'll need to know who made the motion.
And who made the motion? Okay.
And seconded, please.
And the second? Did
Yes.
y'all get the first one, the first two that we did?
I will watch the video.
Okay.
So you
And I have trouble with the word unanimous. Sometimes I get tongue-tied. We will try. Okay. I have to go back up to the agenda, though. Is that a correct statement?
You can continue. You can
Okay.
just proceed.
Do I need to read that statement?
Yes,
Okay. I would like to read, the following was advertised item, and it's being removed from the agenda by staff. The master sign plan approval. The Bank of the Ozarks of McDonough, Georgia requests the approval of a master sign plan for the Eagles Brook Plan Development as required per the approved zoning conditions, District 2. Okay? At this time, we'll have the election of the Zoning Advisory Board officers. Nominations. Any nominations from...
I make a nomination to elect Vicki chairman. Second the motion.
Oh, and I'm supposed to say who's done that. So Mr. Tony made a nomination for the election of Vicki McReynolds. The second came from Mr. Babb. Any discussion? All those in favor of the nomination indicate by raising your hand. That was unanimous. Unanimous.
You did good with it.
All those opposed? None opposed. Okay. Vice Chair, any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Jim Rosher.
I thank you very much, but I prefer not to, do it since I am new to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So I withdraw it.
Okay, do I have any other nominations for Vice Chair?
I make a motion to nominate DeLander for vice chair.
DeLander Nelson. Okay, do I have a second for DeLander Nelson?
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion on that nomination? All right, all those in, oh, I forgot to say who made the,
I have it, Risher made the motion, second by Tony.
okay, I'm gonna have trouble with this all night, so we're gonna, okay, all those in favor of the nomination for DeLander Nelson as vice chair, indicate by raising your hand. That was unanimous? None opposed? Okay. Moving on.
Secretary.
Oh, secretary, yes. Secretary. I need a nomination for secretary.
I nominate Jim Risher.
It has to be, it has to be the zoning staff.
So this time I'm going to make the motion. I'm going to nominate Sherry Hobson Matthews, our planning and zoning director, for secretary.
Jim Risher
way out.
made the nomination for Sherry Hobbs Matthews. Do I have a second? Okay, I have a second by Mr. Head. Any discussion? All those in favor of the nomination indicate by raising your hand. And that was unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Motion carried. Okay, planning staff comments?
No comments from planning staff at this time.
Okay, if that's, okay, we'll move on then to our items. Item number 1.
CU-13-02. This is Verizon Wireless of Atlanta, Georgia, requesting a conditional use for property located at 100 Constitution Drive in land lots 221 and 228 of the 7th District. The request is for a cell tower in the M1 Light Manufacturing Zoning District. It's located in District 2 and is being presented by Sherry Hobson Matthews, Planning and Zoning Director.
Good evening, Madam Chair and board members. As Mr. Harris has indicated, the request before you this evening is a conditional use request to locate a wireless communication facility at 100 Constitution Drive. If you all will recall the information that was presented during the work session, I will try to go through that as well for the viewing public and for the individuals that may be here tonight wishing to speak in reference to the request. Again, it is a conditional use application in which Verizon Wireless is looking to locate a wireless communication facility on a tract of land which is already developed. It's the previous site of the Ford Atlanta distribution facility, which is situated on about 53.75 plus or minus acres. As part of the request, Verizon Wireless had a number of requirements that had to be adhered to prior to staff making a recommendation on the request. What I've done in the staff report is listed all of the requirements per the Unified Land Development Code in regards to the request, and I have indicated that based on the information provided, based on the supplemental information provided during the work session, and then based on notifications that were actually advertised in the paper and notifications to property owners, staff feels that the request and the information submitted does meet the minimum requirements per the Unified Land Development Code. One thing I wanted to make sure that you all understood is that Verizon Wireless was looking to construct a new tower, which would be 175 feet in height. Again, if you look at the plans that were provided, the tower is 165 feet with a 10-foot antenna on top of it, making it 175 feet. Where the tower is being proposed is located in an area that is zoned M1, which is our industrial designation, and there is no surrounding residential development within the corridor or within the area where the tower will be located. One thing that was included in the staff report was a balloon test in which I indicated that the applicant hadn't met the requirements as far as notifying the newspaper that a balloon test would be held on March 16th, in which that test was held. And one thing that was submitted during the work session was a copy of the balloon test report. So I just want to make sure that that gets entered into the record as well. Additionally, planning staff has received a constitutional challenge from the applicant in which the applicant's attorney is present, and we'll discuss that further. Planning staff has recommended approval of the request with 2 zoning conditions. I will be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, do the board members have any questions for the staff? Sherry, I think you did a great job. I don't think they have any questions. Do we have a copy that can be placed upon the overhead, maybe so the public to see, of the balloon test? We think that they could be able to see that, just so that folks know that that was done and what it looked like. I was very curious myself.
And for the edification of everyone here, our code requires that the balloon test is done so that you can get a visual of what the tower will actually look like. We can't require them to construct the tower until after the approval is given. So this is a requirement per the code that the applicant go out and actually have this balloon test administered. I will tell you, the company that prepared the balloon test did indicate that on last Saturday, while the weather was very nice, the wind was pretty high, and so they had some challenges at the beginning, but they were able to get another balloon raised, and they felt that the test did meet our minimum requirements. Planning staff does agree with that assessment.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, I'd like the applicant to please come forward and please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Jen Blackburn. I'm an attorney with Troutman Sanders. The address is 600 Peachtree Street, Suite 5200, Atlanta, Georgia, 30308. And Sherry did such a wonderful job of explaining everything. I certainly don't want to go over it too much. We have a huge need in this area. It's a capacity issue, which means there are existing towers that were located on surrounding this site, but they cannot handle the volume of calls, text, emails, everything that people are doing on their phones. So in order to provide the 4G LTE technology to Henry County, especially in that industrial park and along the 75 and 155 corridor, we really need a new tower here. So it's going to fill a huge need in capacity and really give people amped up service, which is nice. And the tower will also allow for 3 carriers in addition to Verizon. So if any of our other carriers want to locate a tower in this area, they'll be able to co-locate on our tower.
Okay.
And I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Does the board have any questions for the applicant?
No, I just would like for them to put this photo up on the board for the public to be able to see that the only place that it would be seen would be from,
Oh, that's second.
you know, that would be the only way.
Okay, yeah, she can stop it since she's giving her. Do you have that, Sherry?
This particular photo right here that shows the only place it would really be,
Just a simulation of the,
this, yeah, if you would explain that particular photo.
Yeah, these are just photo simulations. So basically what we do is we have an engineer come in and take pictures of the site and then superimpose the tower to show where it'll be located. And actually, this is not the tower. That's a light post. The tower's back there. That's correct. Just so you know. And to clarify. So the light post is clearly more visible than our tower.
So as far as the public goes, that's the only view that the public would really see, because the rest of it's in the industrial area over
That's
there.
exactly. It's a hugely industrial site. It's surrounded by industrial properties. I feel like it's a really, really strong site. We try to locate it as far away from the residents as possible. But we also are trying to serve some of the residents, so it creates a little bit of a hyperbole.
I think for those folks who want to use their telephones, they would be happy to have that.
That's right.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Okay, you may be seated.
Thanks so much.
At this time, we're allowing 10 minutes for those who want to speak in favor of the case. So if you would like to speak in favor of the applicant's request, you may please come forward. Okay, I don't see any indication of anyone coming forward. At this time, anyone that would like to speak in opposition of this case, please come forward. Let it be known that there's no one that's coming forward. So I would like to ask the applicant to please come back up. Okay, does the board have any further questions for the applicant? Okay, you may be seated.
Thank you.
Okay, you need to call this case.
CU-13-02, Verizon Wireless of Atlanta, requesting a conditional use for a property located at 100 Constitution Drive. in land lots 221 and 228 of 7th District. And again, the request being for a cell tower in the M1 Light Manufacturing Zoning District. It's located in District 2.
I make a motion that we accept this request with the staff's recommendations.
We have a motion by Mr. Tony to accept this case. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Mr. Risher. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by raising your hand. That's unanimous. None opposed. Motion carried. Okay, case number 2.
Thank you.
CU-13-03, 80 Andrew LLC of Stockbridge, Georgia, requesting a conditional use for property located at 80 Andrew Drive in land lot 44 of the 6th District. The request is for a sports recreational establishment in the M1 Light Manufacturing Zoning District. It's located in Commission District Number 2 and is being presented by Wanda Moore, planner with the Planning and Zoning Department.
Okay, good evening. The applicant is here tonight to request a conditional use to allow a gymnastic and cheer facility at 80 Andrew Drive located in the M1 Light Industrial Zoning District. The existing building is furnished with gymnastic equipment and has a parking area in front of the building which is not striped. The building and equipment was previously leased to Cheer Innovation All-Stars LLC, whose final business license issuance was on March the 5th, 2010. Afterwards, no application for a business license has been submitted for a gymnastic and cheerleading facility at this property. The applicant now has a new gymnastic and cheer business, ATL Spirit Athletics Tumble and Cheer, who want to lease the space. The applicant has proceeded with lease arrangements, unaware that the use had expired. A business application was applied for by ATL Spirit and was subsequently denied pursuant to ULDC Chapter 11, Section 11.01.04D, which states a nonconforming use of a structure or structure and land in combination that is in discontinuation or abandonment for 6 consecutive months shall not be resumed. Current ULD standards require a conditional use permit for gym facilities located in M1 zoning districts. Since the nonconforming use was discontinued for more than 6 months, the facility is now required to come into compliance with ULDC standards. The proposed use is consistent with properties across the street. Go for Broke, a martial arts studio, is located at 91 Andrew Drive, which is a legal nonconforming use. And CTA Fitness, doing business in Foundation Sports, is located at 81 Andrew Drive, which has an approved conditional use, which was approved on January 12, 2012, with 3 conditions. Mr. Griffin, the owner of the property at 81 Andrew Drive, called Planning and Zoning staff on March the 7th, 2013, to give his support for the application. The use is consistent with neighboring businesses, and staff recommends approval of the conditional use with the following 4 conditions. Number 1, all building accessibility and fire codes must be met prior to the issuance of certificate of occupancy. Number 2, prior to the issuance of the CO, the existing parking facility shall be striped to delineate parking spaces pursuant to ULDC Chapter 8.02.07E. which indicates that each off-street parking space shall be clearly marked and directional arrows or signs shall be provided whenever necessary. Markers, directional arrows, and signs shall be properly maintained so as to ensure the maximum efficiency. Number 3, prior to issuance of the CO, the applicant shall provide to the Planning and Zoning Department an executed shared parking agreement pursuant to ULDC Chapter 8, Section 8.02.08, Shared Parking Arrangements. Notwithstanding anything to the contrary herein, no supplemental standards imposed herein shall be interpreted or applied in such a manner so as to require any violation of any existing building, development, stormwater, or other applicable codes. That was condition number 4. And I would like to submit that the applicant has submitted to the county a shared parking agreement that was sent over to us between the potential leasee and the adjacent property located at 90 Andrew and 100 Andrew. This is the facility for the gym. These are the two adjacent properties for the shared parking agreement.
Okay, I'm going to not chair this case because it is in my district, and I'm going to turn it over to Vice Chair DeLandra Nelson.
Okay. Does the board have questions for staff?
I do. Could you put the agreement back up?
Yes, sir.
I didn't get a chance to read it.
Again, we discussed during the workshop, the initial letter indicates the existing property owner adjacent to the gym at 80 Andrew Drive is in agreement to share with Ms. Johanna Henderson. And as we discussed in the workshop, staff will ask the applicant to tweak the letter and the agreement per standards that Henry County requires for shared parking agreements.
What we are trying to do is, staff was trying to be proactive in requiring the shared parking agreement, so it is listed as a condition of zoning. So tonight, they were not required to have the fully executed document. It's just added on as an additional zoning condition.
Okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
In my notes, in the notebook here, I had 3 conditions, and you added one. Did I not have all the information? I don't know what was added. You said there was
There are
a
4
4.
conditions on the staff report. Your copies only
There's
have
only
3?
3. We only have 3. So, and then I lost you because I couldn't.
You couldn't find them?
Well, I didn't. We don't have everything that we couldn't follow you. So it was like
Okay.
I was trying to find it, and then I didn't hear all what you said. So you
Okay.
might have to repeat those 4
Sure.
again.
Which point, I'm sorry, that you didn't follow,
Well,
just the
It
conditions?
started at number 2 because my number 2 didn't match your number 2.
Okay.
I think what you must have added was, there was some discussion in our earlier meeting about restriping the area so that the parking areas were distinct. Some of the striping is faded in that area.
Yes. I forget the date, specific date that the Planning and Zoning Advisory Board went on the site visit. At that point, staff came back and we were advised that the 22 parking spaces that I had included in the staff report were not actually striped or located on site, that at best there were 12 spaces. And so as such, that condition number 2 was added to the staff report, and it may obviously not included in y'all's copies.
Our number 2 says it's
So
a
number
shared
2
parking
is
group.
consistent with referencing another chapter in the ULDC that basically says that the parking, if you're going to have parking, it needs to be done to the standards of our ULDC, which is the striping. And I can read that now if you wish.
Okay. Will you read number 3? What do you have for 3?
Number 3 I have is regarding to the parking, the shared parking agreement.
Okay, that's number 2 in
Yeah.
ours. So
I think
actually,
you're missing my number 2 that I
your
have.
number 2 is actually number 4,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yep, we can move that to
Because
number
that's new. So that
Yes.
should have been added to number 4.
Okay.
Okay.
So they can see.
Because our number 3 says,
They don't have
no
this one.
supplemental standards imposed herein shall.
Oh, this is my notes from.
I don't think you're reading the right thing.
That's,
No, we have
I'm reading from not a staff report, I'm reading from my presentation report, which was drafted after the site visit. The staff report was amended, however, the copies weren't distributed. But I have that on my presentation, I apologize for that. So number 4, I'll add to the 3 that you have already in the staff report. And number 4 will read as Prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy, the existing parking facility shall be striped to delineate parking spaces pursuant to ULDC Chapter 8.02.07E, which states, each off-street parking space shall be clearly marked and directional arrows or signs shall be provided whenever necessary. Markers, directional arrows, and signs shall be properly maintained so as to ensure the maximum efficiency. And that's an excerpt, again, from Chapter 8 on how to stripe a parking lot.
Everyone clear on it? Any further questions for staff? Will the applicant come forward?
Good evening.
Good evening. Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Greg Nobles, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, McDonough, 30253. Here representing 80 Andrew Drive, LLC, and Ms. Henderson with ATL, Atlanta Cheer and Sports.
Okay. Would you like to add anything to staff?
Yeah, I would like to say the Hudson 75 Park is kind of transitioned over the years. When it started out being more of an industrial park to now it's called Hudson 75 Business Park. Originally developed by a couple local developers, Jerry Kopp and Richard Chatham, who are involved with this building that I represent tonight. And when we first met with Ms. Henderson, we were under the assumption and impression from contacting the staff that we thought we still had a conditional use in place. Upon applying for business license, we realized that they had not paid their business license fees in 2011 as the business was going apparently out of business. Previous owner of the property deceased, and so we had some transitional situations to deal with there, and we weren't aware that since the equipment was still in the building for the cheer gym, that it wasn't still under, the legal business license use. Ms. Henderson then went in, cleaned up, got the facility ready for her inspections. We've actually already had a preliminary fire inspection of the facility that passed, so we were marching forward thinking everything was in order, and then oops, when the business license was reviewed. So we worked with staff. They worked very closely with us to try to help us get this on the agenda promptly as the season for her business starts. Basically now she has to sign up the cheer students for the upcoming season. The training that goes on there will be basically cheerleading teams that'll be comprised of 8 to 12 girls per team. Operating hours are primarily in the evening. The morning hours are the operation of our adjacent business next door. So when he found out we were looking at the property next door for this use, he approached us and wanted to know if we could have some shared parking, since sometimes he needs parking in the 6 o'clock to 4 o'clock hours, and then we need it in the evening. So it worked out to be a good situation for both parties. The business next door is a construction-related business where they do insurance claims adjustments. They have a warehouse just adjacent to this property, which is basically for employee access only, which holds their supplies that they sell to other contractors that work with them in their insurance claims adjustment business. Pace's Restoration is probably the trucks that you've seen on the street that you've seen around the community. Creative Multi-Care Inc. probably doesn't ring any bells with anybody. It didn't with me. But that's their parent company that runs those operations at Building 90 and Building 100. There's a total of 50 spaces at 90 and 100 that we're looking at having this shared arrangement. And so majority of those spaces will be available to us after the 4 p.m. hour when we need them for this business. I wasn't aware of the format needed for the shared parking agreement, so we drafted up this letter, had their company attorney look at it, and had it signed, and that's the, we're willing to comply and do the format that Wanda had shared with me earlier today.
Okay. Does the board have any questions for?
Yeah, I don't want to beat this horse to death, but on the shared parking thing, you showed that agreement for 100.
Yes.
But not for 90, which is directly next door.
The confusion there, I think, is that Building 90 and Building 100 are treated as Building 100 in Creative Multicare's mind. They own both parcels, and they operate their business office out of Building 100, and that's their physical mailing address. Building 90 is an employee-only accessible warehouse, so in their idea of drafting this letter, they didn't put number 90 just due to the fact that
Yeah,
they don't-
that led
they don't
me to
consider
some
it their
confusion
address.
as to,
Yeah.
okay, the property that's really adjacent next door will be the affected property by the shared parking. And I didn't see that they were going to skip all the way down to number 100 before they start parking down there.
And those two buildings actually are shared. The parking lots are adjacent to each other. There's no barriers between 90 or 100. The parking lot basically is a common area parking for both buildings.
Right. Okay,
And-
I just wanted
Yes,
clarification
sir.
on that, you know,
Yeah, I
people I
thought-
know are not going to go all the way down to 100 before they start, I just
Well,
know that's the way it's going to be.
These folks also on 110. We didn't put 110 due to the fact that it's such a long walk. We felt like that would not ever be the case, that we would need more parking. The total of 72 spaces that will be available to us during Ms. Henderson's operating hours are more than enough to accommodate what she needs. And the other space in the building is only 6,000 square feet. Of that 6,000, there's 2 offices and a restroom, and the rest is warehouse storage space. So that's more of a storage type use for that building, and wouldn't need, I don't think, very many parking spaces. So we felt like we would have ample with the shared arrangement.
How can you modify the amended agreement which you're going to prepare to include both buildings, number 90 and 100?
Yes, sir, we'll clarify that.
That there's no further confusion.
Yeah, that'll be clarified in the agreement, and we just weren't aware. When he drafted this letter, he wasn't thinking about, since he owned them all, he wasn't thinking of
Well, that way,
separating
at
out the
least,
two.
you know, there won't be any confusion as to 90 is really included in this, so.
Yeah, and keep in mind, he also wants to share her parking in the morning, so there's a cooperative spirit there between the two business owners.
Any further questions? You may be seated, sir.
Thank you.
At this time, we'd like to allow 10 minutes for those who want to speak in favor of the case. Okay. At this time, we'd like to allow 10 minutes for those who want to speak in opposition of the case. No opposition? Applicant, you can come forward. Does the board have any further questions for the applicant? No questions? You may be seated, sir.
Thank you.
At this time, we'd like to call the case.
CU-13-0380 Andrew LLC of Stockbridge, Georgia, requesting a conditional use for property located at 80 Andrew Drive in Land Lot 44 of the 6th District. Request being for a sports recreational establishment in the M1 Light Manufacturing Zoning District, located in Commission District Number 2.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the request for conditional use with the 4 conditions as presented by staff.
Motion has been made to approve based on the conditions of staff. Any seconds?
I'll second.
It's been moved and properly second. Vote. All vote, show of right hand. Vote is unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. I appreciate that. We'll go to item number 3.
RZ-13-02, Mr. Ali of McDonough, Georgia, requests a rezoning from C2 General Commercial to C3 Highway Commercial for property located at 3234 Jodico Road in Land Lot 79 of the 6th District. The property consists of 0.88 plus minus acres, and the request is for a used car lot located in Commission District Number 3, presented by Sherry Hobson Matthews, Planning and Zoning Director.
Good evening again, Board. The request before you this evening is a rezoning request for a .884 plus or minus acre tract of land. The property is currently zoned C2, and the applicants are seeking to rezone the property to C3 for the purpose of a used car lot, which would only be allowable under the C3 designation. According to the applicant's letter of intent and the site plan that was presented or prepared as part of the submittal process, there is a 5,000 square foot building on the facility in which the applicant will utilize, and there are existing accessory buildings on the facility in which the applicant will utilize. There are currently 18 striped parking spaces on site that will also be utilized for the proposed used car lot. Planning staff did review the request and found that the applicant's request is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan and has recommended approval of the request with 4 zoning conditions.
Are you going to read the conditions?
I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Well, did you read the conditions?
No, ma'am, would you like for me to?
Yes, please.
Okay. Condition number 1, all building, fire, and accessibility codes shall be met. Condition number 2, all new buildings constructed on site shall meet the appearance requirements outlined in section 4.01.03 of the Unified Land Development Code. Condition number 3, dumpsters shall be placed on a concrete pad and enclosed on 3 sides. The enclosure shall be constructed of brick, stone, stucco, or any combination thereof, provided it is consistent with the primary structure and shall not exceed 8 feet in height. And then finally, condition number 4, notwithstanding anything to the contrary herein, no zoning conditions imposed herein shall be interpreted or applied in such a manner so as to require any violation of any existing building, development, stormwater, and or any other applicable codes.
Okay, do we have any questions from the board members for the staff? Mr. Tony, did you have anything?
Yes.
Add a condition?
Would it be possible for us to add a condition number 5? And that would be to put a 8-foot privacy fence, wood fence on the back property line.
We can certainly, you can certainly add that as a zoning condition. It does appear on the site plan that they are showing a 8-foot.
It shows a 4-foot fence back there, and I haven't been able to verify if it's a 4 or 8 foot back there.
Right, they're actually showing a 4-foot and an 8-foot, so we can certainly get clarification from the applicant, but it appears that it's 8.
Off the back property line, that shed.
Yeah, okay.
It
Then
says
indicated an
4-foot
8-foot
wood
fence back
fence.
there.
That's what it says,
Yeah.
4-foot wood fence.
That's what I'm looking at there.
Then at the other end of the building, it says it's 6.4 feet.
Where I just circled on the overhead, it shows an 8-foot wood fence.
That's correct. Biddy,
And then if you go further to the left, it does show the 4-foot. So we probably just need to get clarification from the applicant.
Okay.
So we want to add a condition 5 that there is a 8-foot fence that goes all the way across the back, continuous across the property line. Is that a correct statement, Mr. Tony?
That's what we were trying to accomplish.
If there's none there, or it's not of that height, then we'd like to see it, be raised or replaced to be 8 feet.
Okay. You'll just need to make that as part of your motion if you all move to approve it.
To add a number 5?
Yes.
To add the specific language?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Mr. Richard, or whoever, just make sure we add that specific language that's going across the back part of the property. Is that correct?
That is correct. Is that correct, Mr. Tony?
Yes.
Okay.
I called the wrong name, I apologize. Okay, any other questions for staff? All right, we'd like to call the applicant up to the podium. If you'll please come forward. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm Shukat Ali of 3234 Georgia Road.
Okay. Do you have anything you would like to add to staff comments? You'll have about 10 minutes of time.
Everything looks okay to me.
Okay, you didn't want to add anything?
Yes, ma'am.
Do the board members have anything, any questions for the applicant?
No, ma'am.
The board members don't have any?
Yes, now, is there a 8-foot fence in the back there where you
Yes,
cross
sir,
out
it
at?
is.
Is that continuous from one end of the
Yes, sir, from the
property?
side of the building and goes to the side all the way to the back.
Okay.
Well, I just didn't know if there was an offset between the property line and the existing fence.
Yes, sir.
There is, or there isn't?
This fence is on my property, and there's another fence in the neighborhood in the back, the guy that...
That's what I'm saying, there's a dead area between those two
Yes,
fences.
sir.
So that's where the 4-foot fence is?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Residential side.
Yes, sir.
okay. Does board members have any other questions for the applicant? Okay, you may be seated.
Thank you.
At this time, we're going to allow 10 minutes for those who want to speak in favor of the case. Okay, no one's coming up to speak in favor. This time, we're going to allow, excuse me? Okay, at this time, we're going to allow 10 minutes for those who want to speak in favor of the case. Okay? So no one is coming forward. For those that would like to speak in opposition of the case, we were going to allow 10 minutes for those who want to speak in opposition of the case. Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Edward B. Jackson at 1952 Highway 81 East, McDonough, Georgia. And I've been here in McDonough about 30 years. I own the property next to this property. In fact, I built the property that is in question here 30 years ago, approximately 30 years ago. I'm very much opposed to this because of the fact I just spent about $500,000 right next door, and it was, when I built the buildings, all I heard was C2. And I don't want a used car lot next to my business, because I built the building according to specifications and everything, and it took me about 2 years to get the thing through. And if you're going to, this spot zoning is something that I don't quite gather. I know I'm getting old, and maybe some of you might think I don't like progress, but I do, as long as it's in the right direction. But to me, this is devaluing my property. And another trend is, there's 3 car lots on that street already, and I think all of them are closed down because of the fact there's not a need for that. And usually the procedure after a car lot's going in there, they put a used tire shop. The evidence is there on now. There's a used tire shop right up above me. They got stacks of tires out in the driveway, and not in the driveway, but in the parking lot, and there must be 100 tires out on display all the time. And is this going to be the same trend that we're going to have next door? If it is, I don't want it. And I don't think it's conducive for the area. We got a nice highway fixing to come in there. Why clutter it up with another car lot to probably be closed and for something else to come in there, just like the tire companies? So that's about all I got to say. So I'm very much opposed to it. I own the property next to it. I own property back of it. And like I say, I got a pretty big investment in that whole area there.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anyone else want to speak in opposition to this case? We have 7 minutes and 15 seconds. Yes, sir. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Linville Case, and I live at 185 Highland Drive. I'm directly behind this business that's trying to go in, and I'm opposed to it because I raised my children in this house that I live in, and I don't want to see a used car lot go in my backyard. because basically that's what it is. I joined this property. And then when Mr. Sikar, when I saw him out there working, I approached him and I was trying to be nice, and I said, "What are you fixing to do here?" He said, "Well, I don't know." So I thought he was going to open another pawn shop because he has a pawn shop right up the street from this building. So, if you put a used car lot in my backyard, and my grandkids are back there playing, and they're working on cars back there, I mean, I know how this is. I seen the car lot up the street, the way they operated. They start tearing motors down. You got grease, oil, you got all this debris that's going to come, and then the water that comes off of Jodico Road, when my backyard, when it rains, it's like a flood back there. It's like a river. I mean, you can't, I'm just looking at the negative part of it. I mean, when the rural school, Henry County Rural School was there, that wasn't a problem because we were helping Henry County citizens. But I don't want to see a car lot go in my backyard. I live right behind this building, and I just don't want to see it. And I'm not trying to be a hard nose, but I've been in this house for about 26 years, and I've seen a lot of businesses come and go, and you get a car lot, and the next thing you know, you're going to have the big trucks pulling in. They're going to be tearing them down, and then all this grease and oil is going to run right down in my yard, and there I'm going to be, and ain't nobody going to want to buy my property. So you need to put yourself in my position. What would you do? And I mean, that's just, the way I'm looking at it, because, I'm all for everybody having progress and making something. But when I first moved to Henry County and I first moved in this house, it was a nice place to live. And Henry County's fixing to fix us finally, after all these years, going to fix us some nice roads out there. But I don't want to wake up in the morning and look out there and see a bunch of cars sitting up behind my house in my backyard. I know he's got an 8-foot privacy fence, but you can look out my kitchen window and still see the building, and the building is so close to my fence that there's nothing I can do. I mean, because it's commercial property. I just don't want to see a car lot moving in on me in my backyard, and that's about all I have to say.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Anyone else want to speak in opposition of this case? Okay, thank you. Would the applicant please come back to the podium?
Thank you very much. I heard the comment.
Just a moment, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does the board have any further questions for the applicant?
I have a question for you. How long have you owned this property, sir?
This property has been a year and a half now.
Okay, and what have you been using it as of this point?
I don't have any business in there.
Okay, no business
It's
at all?
It's vacant, yes, sir.
Okay.
Excuse me, no questions from the audience. Sherry, I have a question. The other car lots, are those C3?
The code does require that car lots be under the C3 designation. I can't verify if those car lots predated the Unified Land Development Code, but they should be C3.
They should be, but they could have been before the code, and so it could be that they're not in conformity.
That is
with,
correct.
with the code. Any other questions for the applicant? I do. Mr. Head, did you have?
Sherry.
Okay, go ahead. Ask Sherry.
If this property is not zoned, if the zone is not changed,
Yes, sir.
can it still be used as a car lot?
No, sir, it cannot. Right now, the property is Zone C2, and in order for them to operate it as a car lot, they would need the C3 zoning.
Sherry, what type of business can they just generally can he use that as, other than a car lot as of now?
It could be a service station, it could be a convenience store, it could be a McDonald's, Burger King, any type of retail type of establishment. C3 is pretty much your highest level of intensity. So the car lot would be under the C3, major automotive repair would be under C3.
But under the current C2 zoning, he does have a wide range of uses that could go into that facility now.
He could actually do minor automotive repair, tire sales, that would be allowable under his current C2 designation.
So the tire sales, that's what I was getting ready to ask. That could be a business.
Under the current zoning that he has. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
okay, so, and then if there was a restaurant there would be a lot of traffic, a lot of cars, and, I mean, that could go in there now.
That's
Lighting,
correct.
lights would be, and they could be open later and that sort of thing. The question for the applicant, what would be your hours for this car lot?
Pretty much 10 to 5, ma'am.
10 to 5?
Yes, ma'am.
Will you be adding any additional lighting for evening or for security
Building
protection?
has plenty of lighting, ma'am.
I'm sorry?
It has plenty of lighting. We're not going to add anything to it.
Okay.
I have a question for Sherry.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Is there requirements, like he was talking about the other guy, he was worried about the runoff and all that, would that be handled by EPA or EPD prior to CO is put into place, or how was that addressed?
I will attempt to address, and if I'm incorrect, Michael will certainly jump in, but it's my understanding that because they're just operating a car lot, there would be no need for them to submit any type of development plans. The parking lot is already in place, the striping is in place, so the only thing that they would need to do is apply for their business license. Now, if they were going to do any type of construction on the site, or if they were going to add any additional parking spaces, which would trigger a development permit and or building permit, that would certainly be addressed by our stormwater department and our environmental compliance and plan review department.
If the gentleman is having problems with runoff, that was something he could address with the EPA, is that a correct, or EPD, is that a correct statement?
Yeah, if he's currently having issues regarding stormwater runoff, that's an issue that our environmental compliance or our stormwater department can get involved with today.
That's, okay.
To go and identify. But again, in this case, I don't believe any additional impervious areas being added. So, as Sherry stated, that wouldn't be part of the equation. But if there's current runoff issues, that's an issue that our stormwater department could look into.
With the widening of the road, I would, correct me, wouldn't that have to be something that you guys would look into anyway, as far as to make sure that there's proper runoff when they widen that road?
Yeah, absolutely. If and again, I don't know the drainage patterns for the road, which way the lot, if it drains to the back or drains back to Jodico Road, that I'm not certain of, but certainly that'll be a provision, that'll be one of the elements when they go through and look to widen that area of Jodico Road to determine how the drainage patterns will affect the existing properties.
Now, it's my understanding that that the section of Jodico Road that is to be widened actually would basically be an extension of Campground Road, as I understand it, and then cross over the railroad and then would connect with existing Jodico Road somewhere near Peach Drive, right further to the east, because there's a lot of constraints with the existing Jodico Road as it goes over to Highway 42, such as a large cemetery and buildings close to the road. So the campground extension really is what's going to be built there, as I understand it.
That's right. And I spoke briefly with David Simmons with Henry County DOT prior to the start of this meeting, and he indicated that the current Jodico Road Bridge project will involve some of the widening of Jodico Road. I think some striping that he may have touched on. However, the Campground Road extension or the other widening project that you made reference to, that will involve coming back in and tying into that project. So, Jodico Road in this area is slated to be, I believe, within this area is slated to be widened. It's my understanding. There will be some road work done. He talked about a right in, right out, and then being striped during the GDOT project, but during the SPLOST project, they would come back in, step back in and tie into this project and actually install a raised median in that area to ensure right in, right out. Sir?
I said, would there be curb and gutter added? on
And
the
again,
segment
I'm not
of storm drainage?
certain. Yeah, I'm not certain what the typical section indicates, but he did indicate that the final plans, the SPLOST plans, do call for a raised median in the front of Mr. Ali's property that would allow only for a right-in, right-out, because there will be a median. With the widening project, it will include a median, so he won't be able to make a left turn once that's done. Or no, it'll be a raised median in the front that'll mandate that cars coming in will be right-in, right-out only.
Okay, any other questions from the board for the applicant or staff?
Well, staff, I want to clarify this one more time.
Yes, sir.
If this is approved for C3, there's nothing going to change that's going to say that he's got to control his runoff other than unless something triggers that. So if he gets his zoning, then the gentleman lives behind him would have to wait, and I think he stated that there's already a drainage problem there. I don't know if that will intensify that. I guess the question is, what kind of mechanism we have in place that would control that if
What we will do, and Michael and I both will make sure that we get the gentleman's contact information and then put him in contact with our stormwater department, because it appears that this is already an issue that's in place. And so we'll certainly do our part to follow up to make sure that we can figure out where the problem is coming from and who he needs to speak with to get that resolved.
Okay.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think.
Okay,
Okay.
does anyone have any questions for the applicant so I can let him be seated? Okay, you may be seated.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and call this case.
RZ-13-02, Mr. Shakat Ali of McDonough, Georgia, requesting a rezoning from C2 General Commercial to C3 Highway Commercial for property located at 3234 Jodico Road in land lot 79 of the 6th District, the property consisting of 0.88 plus minus acres, and the request being for a used car lot located in Commission District Number 3.
Do you have a motion to approve or deny this request? It's District 3.
I make a motion to deny.
There's a motion to deny this request. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Risher made a motion to deny the request. My mind just went blank. Mr. Bailey seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor in denying the request, please indicate by raising your hand. Unanimous in denial of this request. Okay, if we can move on to item number 4.
This is a rezoning, VR-13-06. Mr. Shakat Ali of McDonough, Georgia, requesting a variance from development regulations for property located at 3234 Jodico Road, land lot 79 of the 6th District. Request is to eliminate the setback requirement for accessory structures and eliminate the 40-foot buffer along the southern property line. Once again, located in District 3, and again being presented by Ms. Sherry Hobson Matthews, Planning and Zoning Director.
Good evening, Chair and Board. The variance before you is actually ancillary to the rezoning request that you all just heard. What the applicant is asking for is a variance to eliminate the 40-foot buffer along the southern property line for the existing business and to eliminate the setback requirement for an accessory structure. The applicants, again, are looking to utilize the property for a commercial development, and based on the survey plat that was submitted, it appears that the existing accessory structure does encroach in the setback requirements. Planning staff has recommended approval of the request with 4 conditions.
Would you please read those conditions?
Any new structure located on site shall meet the requirements of the Unified Land Development Code. Number 2, should the existing accessory structures be removed or damaged by more than 50% of their replacement costs, they should be relocated or reconstructed only in compliance with the Unified Land Development Code regulations. Number 3, should the use of the property change and new buildings are constructed, the 40-foot buffer shall be installed prior to the issuance of a building permit. And then finally, number 4, notwithstanding anything to the contrary herein, no zoning conditions imposed herein shall be interpreted or applied in such manner so as to require any violation of any existing building, development, stormwater, and/or any other applicable codes.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. Does the board have any questions for the staff regarding this variance? Okay, I'd like to I'm sorry, Mr. Risher?
Sherry, now, as I understand it, he's asking to leave the situation in the rear yard just as it is, to leave those accessory buildings there. Of course, he's got an 8-foot fence, so basically it's a request to not change anything.
That is correct. The only thing we're trying to do is clean this property up so that it can be a legally conforming or non-conforming lot through the variance process.
Okay, any other questions for staff from the board? All righty, thank you. I'd like the applicant to please come forward. State your name and your address for record, please.
Good evening, ma'am. Shukat Ali is my name.
And your address?
So, 34, I forgot the address. 3445.
Your address. You're not the address of the property, but your address.
It's 45 Woodside Court, McDonough, Georgia.
Okay, thank you. Do you have anything to add to staff's comments?
Staff, no ma'am, but I would like to add some comments to the people that came forward for resistance to this request. The update on car dealerships on that road is, there used to be 2 more car dealerships, but they're not in the business anymore. So, plus Jodico Road has been known for car business, tire shops, mechanic shops and all that, In the meantime, I plan to add a beautiful car dealership with a nice business practices, and nice looking place. As far as the water goes down to his property, these properties been there from 80s. So it's the shape of the land that might cause that. Other than that, there is nothing that we've done that causes the water goes to anybody's property.
Okay, I don't want to, we're talking about the variance right now.
Yes,
okay, so if we can just address that and stay focused on that,
yes,
I would appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Do any of the board members have any questions for the applicant regarding the variance? Okay, you may be seated. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to allow 10 minutes for those who want to speak in favor of this case, and we're speaking about the variance at this time. Anybody want to speak in favor? Okay. Anyone want to speak in opposition of this variance request?
Well, here we go again.
Your name. Oh, I'm sorry. State your name and your address. I apologize for the record. Thank you. Keep me in check.
Edward B. Jackson, 1952 Highway 81 East, McDonough, Georgia.
Thank you.
Well, it's the same old story. The building that's currently on the property is 5,000 feet. It was utilized one time as a retardation school or whatever they wanted to call it. I forget now what. At that time, that's what it was called. The lot is pretty well saturated at the present time, so I don't see any point of building any more on that particular lot. So, and as far as the easements and all, I don't want him parking cars upside of my property or anything like that. And there's adequate parking for the buildings that's on the lot at this time. And in case of water, the runoff, I had just built this building, and I had to spend $25,000 for a filter system in the back of my lot to take care of the rainwater. So if anything else goes in there, I think they should have to do the same thing, or better, because it's a bigger lot. That's all.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak in opposition of the variance request? We're speaking about the variance. Okay. Thank you. Please state your name and your address for the record.
Linville Case, 185 Highland Drive.
Okay.
And, again, if they want the variance on this, I mean, I've already got a water problem. And I heard Mr. Sakar saying that it was an existing problem that I've had for years. Well, if he wants 40 more feet, I believe is the way it was, there's going to have to be some digging and all. And I'm telling you, if you come to my property and you see the silk that runs through my yard right now from this property, and since he has went in there and cleaned up the trees and cut trees and debris and all, it's just let the water run even more. I mean, it's got my fence on the back, the silk just pushed my fence, almost pushed it down. And when he was building the new fence, I spoke with him and asked him would there be any way he could try to fix my fence since he cut all the brush and all the bushes down. And he acted like he was going to fix it. Well, he never did. So now I'm sitting there with more silk that's going to be coming through my yard because there's more water every time it rains right there in that area. And then if he does something with a 40-foot variance, that's just going to make the problem even worse. And I just, I'm just trying to look out for my property, and I'm sure he's trying to look out for his, but, we just don't need all this. I mean, and I'm just opposing it because I don't want to see this happen. Because, I mean, I heard this lady right here speaking about, stormwater and all. This has been a problem for a long time. And then when they put this building back there, it seemed to get worse. And then Mr. Jackson spoke of putting a tension pond in, and he did. He put a tension pond in. And there needs to be a tension pond put on this property to catch all the stormwater that's coming off of Jody Cole Road. Because what it's doing is just washing through my yard, and it's basically washed my yard basically away. I had to go out and shovel silk off of the driveway. And, the county just needs to come out there and look at the problem. They're sitting there on Meadowbrook Drive, and they're widening that road out, and it's just a mess around there now. And we've got more silk and more dirt coming in our neighborhood over this problem. And then if he wants to do what he's wanting to do, then I'm going to have another problem. And I'm just trying to eliminate the problem, and that's all.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to speak in opposition of this case? Okay. I'd like to ask the applicant to please come back up. Does the board have any further questions for the applicant?
Are you maintaining silk control right now at the property? Are you maintaining any silk control?
No, sir.
So it's just going where it goes?
And I want to make sure that we understand there's two projects going on. The county has the Campground Road Extension Project, which is currently not underway. They're doing the design. So any of the construction work, as far as anything that's going on Meadowbrook, that's under the jurisdiction of the Georgia Department of Transportation. So it sounds like we probably need to make contact with them as well if it's something that's being, if there's something going on now pertaining to that Meadowbrook and pertaining to any issues that may be coming up now. So I made note of that as well, that it may be multiple parties that need to get involved.
Right, that's where I was leading with this. I just want to make sure that his complaint is addressed to where and I don't know if he understands, we're just asking right now to reduce that area there because he has some existing buildings to bring it in compliance with the ULDC codes. So I don't know if you understand exactly what that meant, that he's asking us if he can reduce that and keep those buildings there, is basically what he's here for tonight. Correct me if I'm wrong on
Right,
that.
and you're absolutely right. What has actually happened is that this building has been located there with the accessory structures with no buffer at all. So what the applicant is asking is to come into compliance. He's not asking the board to allow him to go out and remove anything because there is nothing there now except for the fence and what minor tree coverage is there. So if the board were to approve the request, there aren't going to be any tractor trailers out there removing trees or doing anything additionally because there's already no buffer there.
Sherry, if this is not approved, would he have to put up a buffer?
If he does not develop the site, then he doesn't have to do anything. If he just continues to leave it as C2, not requiring any type of development permit, then he's been allowed to operate thus far in that manner with the current C2 zoning.
Is this an acre of land?
It's .88.
So it's not an acre.
That's
So
not an
according to
acre.
NPDES, he wouldn't even have to put up silt fence if it's not even an acre if he was doing work.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Okay, so he wouldn't be required to put up silt fence because of NPDES permitted. So, and I knew it had to be over an acre. So I just want to make sure everybody understood that he could do some stuff to this property and wouldn't have to put up the protections. But
Well,
it's,
just as a point of clarification, I mean, if he was disturbing the ground, had some land disturbance that was causing silt runoff, then from that standpoint, from erosion control standpoint, he would have to have silt fence up. But only if he was, they had some ground disturbance going on.
is that silt runoff, is that from the construction that's going on?
I don't know there's any construction going on the subject
front of
site.
his?
I don't believe.
Not on his side, but
Yeah.
on the road? Is there anything across the
I
street?
don't know that there is in that area. There may well be, I'm not sure.
I know they staked, I do know that they have staked in front of Mr. Ali's property. So I do believe that it's part of GDOT's work that's going on. I'm not sure that that work is the result of what the gentleman that spoke is speaking in reference to. Again, Michael and I don't have the plan, so I certainly don't want to misspeak, but we will certainly follow up with the gentleman that spoke and make sure that we do get him in contact with the appropriate department.
Okay. Any
Yeah, I have a
other?
question for the applicant.
Yes,
Sir,
sir.
have you did any construction there at all?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you plan to do any construction there?
Don't need anything. no.
Okay. Do you plan to tear down any of those buildings or add any additional buildings?
No, sir.
Okay.
Anyone else have any comments for the applicant? If there are no comments for the applicant, I will ask the applicant to please be seated.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now call the case.
VR-13-06, Mr. Shakat Ali of McDonough, Georgia, requesting a variance from development regulations for property located at 3234 Jodico Road in land lot 79 of the 6th District. The request is to eliminate the setback requirement for accessory structures and eliminate the 40-foot buffer along the southern property line located in Commission District Number 3.
I'd like to make a motion to deny this request for variance, and my reasoning is that we need to look to the future. If the property, if the building on the property is expanded, or if there's some redevelopment on the property, we should not diminish the buffer standards. If it was to be approved, then we would lose the opportunity to impose the 40-foot vegetative buffer against the residential zoning, through any future development.
Do I have a second for Mr. Risher's motion?
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny this request. Are there any discussions regarding this request? Okay, we'll now take a vote. All those in favor of Mr. Risher's motion to deny this request, please indicate by the raising of your hands. It's unanimous, and there's none opposed. Okay, moving on to the next case, number 5.
And Madam Chair, if I just may, For the individuals that are here tonight and for the viewing public, rezoning requests are forwarded on to the Board of Commissioners for a final decision, and the Zoning Advisory Board is just a recommending body. So there will be another public hearing signed and public notification postcards sent out at a later date once the item has been rescheduled. For all variance requests and conditional use requests that have been denied, all applicants have 30 days to file an appeal. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry.
The next item is Unified Land Development Code Text Amendment, ULDC-AM-13-05. The Henry County Board of Commissioners of Henry County, Georgia requests an amendment to the Unified Land Development Code, Chapter 2, Permitted Uses and Supplemental Standards, and Chapter 4, Supplemental Standards for Specific Uses, in accordance with Sections 12.02.11 and 12.03.00 of the Henry County Unified Land Development Code. This is a county-wide text amendment. It's being presented by Ms. Wanda Moore, planner of Henry County Plan and Zoning.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Staff, upon review of our ULDC code, was determined that the ULDC currently does not provide permitted uses and standards for private membership recreational facilities located within residential zone districts outside of a subdivision. This item has come about from a previous text amendment and workshop and discussion regarding the swim center. As part of our review, staff has recommended that Chapter 2 be amended as indicated here. The exhibit Chapter 2, Permitted Uses and Supplementary Standards, Table 2.03.02, and Chapter 4, Section 4.03.032, Private Membership Recreational Facilities of the ULDC, to read as follows. The Table 2.03.03, Residential Land Uses in Base Zoning Districts, the table will be amended as indicated here, to include the private membership recreational facility. And then Chapter 4, Section 4.03.032 is recommended to be amended to state private membership. Let me put that up here so you can see that. Private membership recreational facilities not in a subdivision. Item A, it is the intent of this section to provide citizens with large residential properties the opportunity to operate types of businesses that are compatible within larger tracts of land. A private membership recreational activity is defined as a facility open only to members and guests of the private organization operating the facility. Item B, private membership recreational facilities are permitted in all residential zoning districts outside of a platted subdivision with an approved conditional use subject to the standards of the zoning district and the supplementary standards of this section. The permitted uses are outdoor activities that include swimming, court sports, archery, and similar uses. Prohibited uses include commercial recreation activities wherein the principal use is an indoor activity consisting of exercise and/or training rooms, equipment, etc. The regulations provided are to protect, maintain, and preserve the agricultural and/or rural character of the area, but not creating a nuisance and exceeding traffic, smoke, noise, or be a fire hazard. Item C, the following site design standards are required. Table 4.03.32C, Standards for Private Membership Recreational Facilities. The minimum site area is 10 acres outside of a subdivision. The minimum lot width is 200 feet. The minimum setback from any residential zoning district for any building or structure is 100 feet. Maximum accessory building height is 25 feet. Access requirements is a paved collector road. Buffers on the sides and the rear are 20 feet. Hours of operation would be 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Parking Aisles may be paved, spaces may be paved, grass, dirt, or gravel. Then item D, the zoning advisory board may require additional requirements and restrictions as conditions of approval, such as, but not limited to, more restrictive hours of operation, number of classes per day, and/or students per session.
Okay, does the board have any questions for the staff regarding this text amendment?
I have one question, which I suppose we should have thought of this before, but on the parking, it says aisles may be paved, spaces may be paved, grass, dirt, or gravel, but would ADA, handicap parking standards be applicable with this new change?
It depends on the clientele of the private membership facility, because it's not, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because it's not a commercial building or use, the requirements that the county, as well as, as far as commercial use or buildings, would not have to be, quote, adhered to. Safety regulations, obviously, for any building access, if it is required a part of that business.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. I will state that requirement is consistent with the requirements that's in our athletic field. The parking is the exact same wording.
Well, I think we asked this question before, but what percentage of the county would be affected by or would meet these requirements?
For properties outside of a subdivision, 10 acres and larger, the statistics that were provided to us by Henry County tax assessors was 2% or less.
Any other questions for the staff from the board? Okay. Any comments from the public in favor of the text amendments? You have 10 minutes.
Good morning.
State your name and your address. Excuse me.
Good evening, Board. Jennifer Hill, 177 Stokes Drive, Stockbridge, Georgia. And as a person who lives on a larger tract of land, that this amendment would benefit for purposes of being able to provide membership-type recreational activities for swimmers specifically. I'm in support of this text amendment. Not only would it benefit me personally, it would benefit our community. It would benefit other people in those 2%ers like me who live on larger tracts of land that maybe are needing some type of financial stability and also want to provide a service to use their ingenuity and creative measures to provide maybe a bike park or a skate park or archery or other type of outdoor recreational activities for students, children, families to enjoy and bring together some family bonding time. I think of how recreational sports have blossomed over the last 10 years with soccer and baseball and other organizations that have stepped in to provide these types of services, much like cheerleading gyms, although that's indoor and that wouldn't apply in this case. There are a lot of other outdoor sports that might be able to be accommodated on larger tracts of land as well.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak in favor of this text amendment? Okay, any comments from the public in opposition of this text amendment? Okay, do the board members have any other questions for staff? If not, we would like to call this case.
Yes, that is Unified Land Development Code Text Amendment, ULDC-AM-13-05. Henry County Board of Commissioners of Henry County, Georgia requests an amendment to the Unified Land Development Code, Chapter 2, Permitted Uses and Supplemental Standards, and Chapter 4, Supplemental Standards for Specific Uses, in accordance with Sections 12.02 1.11 and 12.03.00 of the Henry County Unified Land Development Code, and this is a county-wide text amendment.
I'd like to make a recommendation to approve of the request to amend Chapter 2, Permitted Uses, Supplemented Standards, Table 2-03-02, and Chapter 4, Section 4-03.32, Private Membership Recreation Facilities of the ULD Code, to read as follows.
As staff presented.
As staff presented, excuse me.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, is there, excuse me, Mr. Butcher seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of this motion, please indicate by the raising of your hand. The motion carried, it's unanimous. Next, section number 6. Item number 6, excuse me.
ULDC Amendment 1301, Jennifer Hill of Stockbridge, Georgia, requests an amendment to the Unified Land Development Code, Chapter 7, Standards for Accessory and Temporary Uses, Section 7.01.00, Home Occupations, in accordance with Sections 12.0211 and 12.0300 of the Henry County Unified Land Development Code. Again, this is a countywide amendment, and Wanda Moore will be representing planning staff.
Good evening, staff. Good evening, board. I'm not feeling well tonight. Sorry.
That's okay, it's the same here. Yeah, we can't,
I
we don't
think
know.
here.
That's all right.
As was read, Ms. Jennifer Hill, who is the owner of the swim center, has requested staff to look at home occupations in our code, our ULDC code. Ms. Hill has a business that's been in business for 6 years. She was cited by code enforcement and came into P&Z to ask how she could come into compliance. At that time, we spoke about what the home occupation does allow and does afford, and it was so far limiting to what she was doing. Staff, upon recommendation to her of a text amendment, she applied for a text amendment for the home occupation to allow more students. She actually desired to have an unlimited amount of students and an unlimited amount of instructors. Staff took the task and started to review various jurisdictions and found through the review and study that there were jurisdictions that were more lenient as far as the number of students that they allowed as a home occupation. And we also found that compared to other jurisdictions, Henry County was more restrictive for the amount of employees that we allow. So as such, to kind of cut to the chase, staff, as far as Jennifer's request to allow a home occupation with unlimited students and unlimited employees, staff recommended, I need to put this up here. The staff recommended denial of Chapter 7, Section 7.01.01E of the ULDC regarding the number of employees. However, staff recommended approval of the request to Chapter 7, Section 7.01.03, Standards for Specific Home Occupations of ULDC, to read as follows. Tutoring, including all indoor and outdoor instructional services, shall be limited to 2 students at any one given time for all residential zoning districts less than 3 acres in size. Properties 3 acres or larger shall be limited to 5 students at any one given time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any comments from the board for the staff?
Yeah, could you, do you have it, the original one, the original code that we were trying to change? Do you have a copy of that with you? The original code, where where the proposed changes were to 3 acres or larger with 5 students. And could you put the original back up so people understand what originally was put on the board to start with?
This right here? The original.
Now, that was the proposal. What about the original one that stated, what was it, 2 students per, am I
It says
off on the wrong
Yeah,
page?
this is the original, I believe, 2 students.
I got the original one that we were trying to change to start with.
D,
Is that
Section D.
Was that
That's it up
1201?
here,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah. It's section 12.02.11.3A through D.
Yeah, and it said, I don't have it with me on this meeting now. I should have. brought it
No,
with
I
me,
didn't-
but
I don't
the-
either.
But the original one that,
Right.
where it said 2 students.
What our code says
Yeah, the
currently?
original
the
code,
LDC
the code section.
Oh, yes.
Just so people understand why we're where we are.
Yep.
This is on.
Yeah, okay, just so people understand
Right.
where we are. The people at home, they may not know what we're talking about.
Right,
That's-
right, right.
Right here, this is how our current code reads in Chapter 7.01.03. Instruction shall be limited to 2 students at any one given time. Is that what you were referencing?
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Okay, any other comments from the board for the staff? Okay, are there any comments from the public in favor of this text amendment presented by staff?
Jennifer Hill, 177 Stokes Drive, Stockbridge, Georgia. Again, I'm still in favor of this text amendment because not only would it help the swim center, but I do believe that it's an advocate for home-based businesses. When I look at this and I see the number of students being limited to only 2, I feel that we live in a time where homeschooling is at a maximum peak right now. There are a lot of different homeschooling organizations. There would be a great need for people to be able to convert their basements to use to provide homeschooling type services to groups of 5. If they're limited to 5, that's still a lot better than 2. And other, tutoring type services that could be provided through one's home. So I feel that I've been put in a position to kind of be an advocate maybe for small business owners, for people that are sitting at home trying to think of a way that they can provide for food for their families in the economic times that we're in, and that Henry County could be a forefront leader in welcoming small business owners and welcoming that ingenuity and entrepreneurship that would both enhance our county and provide services that are much needed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak in favor of this text amendment? Please come forward and state your name and address, please, for the record.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Chair members. My name is Nikki Toney, and I live at 1150 Larkspur Drive in Locust Grove. I have worked with Jennifer with swimming for the past 7 or 8 months, and it has been a grand opportunity. I know she is speaking for small businesses in general. However, from my personal experience, this has been an opportunity for my family to reunite. Sad to say, my husband and I have had problems. We didn't have a babysitter. We didn't have an out. We didn't have anything. To have Jennifer be there for us and provide swim lessons, something my husband and I could not do, nor my 2 small boys, and to have them at the same time, we were able to reconnect with each other, while at the same time reconnecting with our entire family. We had an outlet. We had other members of the community coming in, and we could speak with other adults as opposed to children. This is an opportunity for us. Henry County is growing. If we wanted to go swimming somewhere else or learn swimming, we would have to pay for a membership at Gold's Gym, which we cannot afford. Times are hard. This is a small business. Let small businesses grow. Let them excel. Let small families like myself, who are in trying times trying to maintain the economy with the gas prices rise, please let us have this. She is affordable. She is not breaking any laws, and she is providing a very needed service in this community. Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak in favor of the text amendment? We have about 6 minutes, according to this clock. Right?
I'm Donna Oliver. I live at 6301 Browns Mill Road in Lithonia, that's DeKalb County. I'm speaking on behalf of Jennifer's, what she's after, the swimming team, and it is such a nurturing environment for all the people that go there, not just the children. There's adults that go there. My granddaughter is homeschooled, and this is a wonderful environment for her. She learns her swimming, she gets to interact with other children, and if it was limited to 2 or even 5, it would certainly affect every child that went there to swim. It's a wonderful way to spend a safe summer.
Thank you.
And we need Jennifer.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak in favor of this text amendment?
Madam Chair, while she's approaching the podium, could you please remind the public that anyone that is speaking needs to fill out a speaker card, please?
Oh, yes. Anyone who's speaking needs to fill out a speaker card.
My name is Robin Overby. I live at 28 Daily Walk, McDonough, Georgia. I have 4 children, 27, 24, 14, and 10. My older boys grew up in South Florida swimming from the time they were 6 months old. To us, this is an important essential that has to be done. When we moved here, our girls were born, and we couldn't find a place to take them swimming. It wasn't like Florida to where everywhere you look, you could go and take your children swimming. They had county pools. There was every place you could go. Here we found Jennifer, and my children learned to swim beautifully, better than they did in Florida with the Red Cross down there. They have achieved high standards, and she's done a wonderful job. And we would really like you to consider keeping her business open.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak in favor of this text amendment? Please don't forget to fill out a card and state your name and address for the record.
Diane Cates, 1205 Mill Creek Lane, Stockbridge, Georgia. I'm a senior citizen, and I love water aerobics. And I think the number of 5 is very restricted. I think that number should be considered to be raised to a higher number.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor of this text amendment? Okay. Anyone from the public would like to speak in opposition of the text amendment? Sherry, did we have something we want to put for the record on an opposition for the text amendment?
Yes,
You
that's
gonna
what I
read that?
wanted to confirm, that we did receive a letter in opposition to the request. It was from a Mr. Ron Godfrey. There was no address provided, but I just wanted to make sure that this information was entered into the record.
Okay, thank you. At this time, Sherry, I call for the vote. Is that a correct statement?
That is correct.
Okay, call for the vote. I'm sorry, I'll call the case. See, Wanda, you're not the only one. I'm not sick, I just...
ULDC Amendment 1301. Jennifer Hill of Stockbridge, Georgia, requests an amendment to the Unified Land Development Code, Chapter 7, Standards for Accessory and Temporary Uses, Section 7.01.00, Home Occupations, in accordance with Sections 12.0211 and 12.0300 of the Henry County Unified Land Development Code. Again, this is a text amendment that is county-wide.
Okay, I need a motion to either deny this request or approve it.
I'd like to make a motion to deny the request to amend Chapter 7 of Section 70101, Section E of the Unified Land Development Code regarding the number of allowable employees, and Chapter 7, Section 70103, Standard for Pacific Home Occupational of the Unified Land Development Code to read as follows. Section D, based on the staff.
I have a motion to deny the request for a text amendment. Do I have a second?
Was that a denial?
Yes.
On both?
Yes.
Second motion.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? Okay, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor of denying this text amendment, please indicate by the raising of your hand. Denial of the text amendment. Yes. Okay, we've got, did you vote? I didn't see your hand. Okay, it's unanimous. A denial of this text amendment. That was okay. That was fine. No, you did good. Okay, this concludes the cases, and at this time, we will allow 10 minutes total for public comment for anybody that wants to come up here and address the board. Please don't forget to fill out a card, and then state your name and address for the record, please. So there's no one coming up. So if we do not have any further business, I need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second? All those in,
Excuse me, I said I will.
I'm so sorry. I thought I gave plenty of time. We have a motion and a second to, and we're adjourned. Thank you.